Just welcome back to the show, Gilly Flaherty. Morning, Gilly.
Morning, how are you?
I was going to say one last shot for the year, but it probably won't be that long before we have you back on again, because there's a lot in the calendar upcoming. But we do need to pick through events. Obviously last weekend the WSL done and dusted. The top two did what was needed in the end of the final day. Arsenal finished with a bit of a whimper, but they had third lockdown regardless. But Chelsea are the story. Needed to win to be certain. They were 2-0 up at half time against Reading. Job done and worthy winners.
Yeah, and I mean, I was commentating on the game, and yeah, I mean, Chelsea, I was speaking to the Emma before the game, and there was never no hint of, oh, this could be a tough game or anything like that. I think they was fairly confident that they was going to get the result, and yeah, they come out. In the first, I'd say 10-15 minutes, Reading done well. You know, they was keeping possession of the ball, but they never really had a real threat, and then Chelsea obviously get the first goal. They get the second just before half time as well, which ultimately kills the game. And Reading, they had one chance. They had a header, but yeah, it was only ever going to be one team that's going to win that game, and obviously they got the job done, and they won the league. Yeah,
and won it with Reading still fighting for it. It wasn't as if they were just there to be bowled over as well. They had actually something to play for themselves. Will you talk to us, just tease out on Emma Hayes a little bit more, because inevitably when a season ends and a team ends up victorious, everybody ends up picking through the details as to why this has come to pass. And one of the things has been about Emma Hayes' attention to detail about the key backroom appointments, sleep coaches, one-to-one nutrition, supplements, and monitoring training loads around menstruation. Noteworthy, it felt to me reading it, Gilly, because it's possibly not happening at many other clubs.
Yeah, I mean, Emma's always been the best of the best. Like from when I was there at Chelsea, obviously Man City at the time put in a lot of money as well when I was at Chelsea, but anything we wanted, Emma made sure that we got, and she's always constantly looking to improve, so in regarding like the menstrual side of things, and players' ACL injuries, and like when players were coming back from England camps or international camps in general, it was about looking after them, and I know it does help because Emma's got a big squad, so she can rotate players, she can manage players' minutes. But all the other side of things in regards to the sleep, I know they've got like recovery chambers down there. They've got everything that the club need and the players need, and that just shows. And I know obviously it all talks about budgets, etc. But if you're looking at Arsenal men, you're looking at the Man City, Man United, they've all got the same budget in that side of things to put that into the women's. It's not like Chelsea, the men's side is the most successful and they've got more money than anyone else. That's not the case, because in regards to the finer details, like getting a sleep coach in, I know when I was at West Ham, we had a sleep coach there as well, who really helped, especially more so the international players, and they come back from travelling and, the jet lag and everything like that. Which is obviously, there's more international players in the Chelsea women's team. But it's just that finer detail and the attention to detail that Emma brings that other clubs really, they need to learn from her.
I find that incredible. Like I exactly like you're saying, like the scale of some of the clubs that you've mentioned there, that and so all of those concepts, most of those concepts have been known for some time, are understood and are implemented over in the men's game. Why is it not happening on the women's side?
I don't know. Is it potentially budgets? Is it? Listen, Chelsea. I mean, most women's clubs probably run at a loss anyway, in regards to what they bring in what they generate in regards to the club. But you're looking at Chelsea, like it's proven they have success every single year. They're always winning titles, they're winning trophies. You've obviously got the Champions League that they go far in. But I do think it's a case of just buying into it, and the women's game's only going one way, it's going up. And it's not even if you take out the top four as such, but it's about getting other clubs who are lower down the pyramid, who are lower down the league, to invest in their women's team. Because what you don't want is what you see sometimes throughout this season was the top four potentially top 5 break away, and then the rest are all sort of sitting near the bottom fighting for the scraps.
Emma Hayes certainly leading the way, Gilly, when it comes to management levels and levels reached in the WSL. We saw the news this week of Lydia Bedford being appointed the Brentford under-18 boys head coach. So of course Lydia is former Leicester City women's manager. She's leaving her position as Arsenal assistant manager at the women's setup as well. Seems like it's a small thing and a small first step, but it seems like an important move as well, that it's fairly landmark in that she's coming into the men's game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is a huge position for her to take up. It's going to be completely different to coaching and managing women. It's the same, I think, when you get men who have worked in the men's game come into the women's game, that you have to learn to do things a little bit differently. It's natural. So that'll be the same, vice versa, with Lydia going over to that side of things. But it is, and you look forward, I know people say, but you look forward to a day where a woman managing a men's side or a boys' side or a boys' academy, that isn't news, because it is the norm, and it is fantastic because someone's done it. And like you said, it is a landmark, and you want to encourage more women to get involved in coaching alone, whether that's with boys or whether that's with girls, because there's not enough women's coaches. But you look forward to a day where it's just going to be like, oh, so-and-so, she's gone and got a job with the men's team. Oh, brilliant. Rather than, because it is a huge thing, but it only hopefully will entice more women to take those opportunities.
And I think whether we like it or not, like an owner of one of those clubs soon is going to go, Emma Hayes is doing some serious job at Chelsea and we need to get her in.
Yeah, and I spoke about this the other day because the FA have done like a Chelsea mural of Guru writing, which I went down to sort of launch. And one of the reporters there asked about Emma and said about her going into the men's side. And you want to encourage it because, like I said, it would be huge for the women's game in general and for Emma. But at the same time, you don't want to lose Emma from our women's game because she's so good. She fights for so much, and she is one of the best managers that there is. So you don't want to lose her. You want to keep hold of her. I don't know what Emma's aspirations are, whether she wants to go into the men's game or whether she wants to continue to drive the women's game forward. I'm not too sure, but it's selfish from, say, my point of view, that I want Emma to stay in the women's game because I know that she can fight for a lot for us and she can drive us forward.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Who knows what Arsenal might have done this season, but for the injuries, and in the window they'll lose a major centre back option. A couple of players that are out of contract that there's not so much clarity just yet as to whether they're going to stay or not. There's the McKay will she won't she stuff. Feels like a really important window for Arsenal to try and bridge that 11-point gap.
Yeah, and I think from like you sort of got like the last game of the season vibes in their game against Villa. Obviously Villa deservedly so took the 3 points, 1-2-0. But it was sort of seemed a bit like we're done, we're dusted. We need a break. You feel for a lot of the players who have had to put in over 150% this year because of the fact of the injuries and the things that the team have gone through emotionally as well. Like it's just been a constant up and down for them. But the main thing is that they secured Champions League for next season, which was huge for the club. But yeah, I think off season you'd be interested to see how Jonas recruits. And I think if there's anything that Arsenal would have learnt this year would have been in the sense of if we do get a couple, 2-3 serious injuries, we still have a squad big enough and good enough to compete and not fall away. You're looking at Chelsea, you're looking at Frank Kirby and Pernille Harder basically spent majority of the season out and Chelsea still managed to go and do the double. And so that's where that you need that squad depth. I think it's huge that they've secured Frida Marnham on a new contract because she's been huge for them. But now it is about in the off season. Obviously, Raffaelli's gone, so now you need to get more centre backs in. You've already got one of your centre backs who is out for quite a while. Obviously, you do have Mead coming back, who seems to be flying with a rehab. Miedemar's obviously still to come back too, but then you can't put a lot of pressure on players, especially when they're coming back from ACLs, to come back flying, and you've got to give them time to get settled back into the game. But it'll be interesting to see what he does, especially in this off-season.
You mentioned the Arsenal manager, Jonas Eidevall there, Gilly, and he's written a really interesting first of a series of columns, I think, in the Guardian that he's going to be doing over the next number of weeks. But kind of a preview of tomorrow's Champions League final between Wolfsburg and Barcelona, and he's pointing out the narrative of the previous few Champions League finals where there's been a really, really fast start by one team, profiting from their goal scoring opportunities early on, getting that early lead, and I think he's right, isn't he? The first 15 minutes of this final, as he puts it, tomorrow will be very, very intense.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how both teams start. I mean, obviously you're looking at Wolfsburg in their semi-finals against Arsenal. I mean, they had a great start at home, because obviously, but that was through Arsenal's mistakes that they got so 2-0 up early on. And you're looking at Barcelona, who they started fast against Chelsea in their semi-final, but then struggled to really break down Chelsea for the remaining of those games. So it'd be interesting to see how both teams come out. Obviously, if you're looking at the history of the Champions League, Wolfsburg have been in the final more times than Barcelona. But for me, I watched. Obviously, I've watched both of the semi-finals, and I just don't see anyone beating Barcelona. I think if Wolfsburg made the same mistakes that they did, like they did against Arsenal, then they'll be punished. And they made more mistakes against Arsenal, but wasn't punished for them. But I think if you're doing those mistakes against the likes of Barcelona, you're going to get punished. So it'll be interesting to see how both teams set up for tomorrow's game.
On that article that Shane mentioned about Eidevall, like, he also spoke about the tactical side of trying to limit Wolfsburg a little bit. He spoke about trying to engage their fullbacks a bit further up the pitch, particularly to try and make Jonsdottir play a little bit deeper. Like, when you talk about it, like her performance and her ability to score, what in terms of the possibility for an upset here is key.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's bad because you look at it, like I said, Wolfsburg will probably be going into this game as underdogs against Barcelona, but they've won more Champions League than what Barcelona have, and it's because obviously they've not been in it for the recent years, but they're I mean, Wolfsburg have got some great players, and I do think Pop plays as well, because I think against Arsenal she was having to come so deep to get the ball that you missed her creativity, you missed her drive further up the pitch. She couldn't be in both places at once. But yeah, Wolfsburg need to play to their strengths too. They are a very good team. And like I said, it is a one-off game, but it is the Champions League final. It's probably the biggest one-off game that you can play. So it will be interesting to see the game. I'm excited for it. And yeah, excited to see who comes away winners.
And hopeful that Lucy Bronze, I'm sure selfishly as well, and been all England fans looking at that saying back from injury, big performance would be a nice way to round up the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she had the knee surgery, but she's just seen, I don't know if it was more just of a clear out really in her knee. But yeah, I mean, she'll be pushing, she's an ultimate pro, and she'll be pushing to be starting in that game. Also excited to see how Kia Walsh does as well. I think she's been fantastic since she signed for Barcelona. So she, again, for Wolfsburg, she'll be key to stop, because her distribution, the way she can get the ball, turn, face up, and play those passes, will be key for Barcelona. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they stop. But fingers crossed, Lucy Bronze, Kia Walsh, if they do play, they have a great game, but they stay fit, obviously, for the World Cup.
But it sounds like you're saying Barcelona either way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I find it hard not to see any other result, but I could be sitting on there again with pie on my face because Wolfsburg absolutely annihilate them. But I just can't see it. From watching the games, I think Barcelona were tight at the back. They were compact. They didn't really have much trouble them, whereas I think Wolfsburg did on the other hand. But it'll be interesting to see what happens and who comes away with it.
Can you make any argument for Wolfsburg?
No, yeah, I think Wolfsburg. I think if you're looking they've got the mentality because they know how to do it. You know, they've been there, they've done it, they've been on the both ends of the spectrum in the final. And they have got a fantastic history with the Champions League. They have got great players as well. You know, they have got big players. Like I said, it depends on how much you get pop on the ball as well. Whether you can get her higher up the pitch rather than picking up off the defenders. You know, she's too low. You need her higher up and creating things. I think it will be a lot harder than just Barcelona just going to turn up and win it. They are two very fantastic teams, but for me, I see a Barcelona win.
And finally, we're eyeing up the possibility of things go well for us in Australia. We might end up playing England, so we're paying some attention to the squad naming this week. And England were one of the first out of the blocks with it. Beth Mead missing obviously is a blow. Maya Letitia not making it was one of the headlines. And Beth England, full value for her recall? Yeah,
I mean, I commented on Beth's Instagram post because I said finally someone saw sense, because what she's done since going to Tottenham, who were struggling anyway before she went there, but what she's done even more so being there, she scored some huge goals for them. She's basically single-handedly stopped that team from getting relegated, basically because of the goals that she scored. So she deserved the call up. You know, she's producing the goods, she's banging in the goals. She deserves to be on that plane. Obviously, Maya Letitia, I think, is harsh for her to miss out. I think she's had a fantastic season at United, and Serena's come out and said that they see her more as a fullback. But for me, I think she's better than Esme Morgan. I think she's had a better season than Esme Morgan. And obviously then Beth Mead, in all honesty, I don't think she should have really ever been in contention to come back into the squad, purely off the fact of she suffered one of the worst injuries in women's football, in football in general. And she hasn't played for 8 months. You know, I mean, it's not an injury that, you know what, it's ligaments or it's your ankle ligaments, we'll strap it up. It's a serious injury and there is a high chance of it reoccurring. So I think it's the safest option. As much as obviously any England fan would love Beth Mead to be out there playing because she is fantastic and she brings so much to the team, you can't, in my opinion, go into a huge tournament like the World Cup off the back of having no match fitness and being out with a 9-month injury with an ACL. So I think it was a tough decision, but I think it was the safest decision and the wise decision to leave her at home. But there's other opportunities now for other players who have been called up to go and show what they can do. Laura Coombs, who's 32 years of age, has been called into the squad for her first senior tournament. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do draw England at some point during the tournament. It'll mean that we're progressing quite well, and that'll be an altogether different conversation, Gilly, which I would look forward to having. So enjoy the football tomorrow. Thanks a million.
Lovely, thank you.